Bueno, primero, buenas tardes a todos y todos. Yo creo que es el momento más complicado del día, ¿no? Volver a hablar de innovación después de comer. Pero tenemos un panel bastante breve que será en inglés. So we're going to do a language switch. I'm sorry for our translators for this unannounced change. But in any case, thank you so much for being here. We are going to try to keep it brief. This is going to be an interview that I'm going to conduct with to the two esteemed colleagues that are here on my left. As Alicia said, we are thrilled that we have participated to this project that is Begonia. I don't know if actually this is working. Yes, this is working. That's great. So and I think that the most important thing that I would like to let you know is why are we here? We have heard a lot about innovation, a lot about competition, and the problem is that usually it's extremely complicated to make it real. So we're not going to tell you that Begonia is the answer. That would be unrealistic. But the point is that this can be one step in this direction, right? So the reason why we are here today, as Alicia anticipated before, is that we are not here to tell you the outcomes of our project. We are going to do that to give you some context. But the most important thing is that we are here to present with an opportunity. That is probably the main outcome of our little chat today, because everything that we did in Begonia was to do some research that started more than a year ago, and this became from a request of the Commission to try to identify the most interesting use cases of digital platforms. We're going to explain a bit better what we mean by that later, in the energy and transport sectors that would work also cross-border and cross-sector, right? So we started a long time ago investigating the most interesting ones at the European level. We filtered them, developed them, and then now we have 3. And these final 3, as Alicia said, in a month's time will be included in a tender launched by the Commission for their implementation. This is not about research. Again, I want to stress this point. This is about implementing them, right? So, and this is the reason why they're willing to co-fund the implementation with 20 million euros. So our job was a preparatory work. And we are thrilled that we are actually coming to the end of the main chunk of the work that we did. Begonia is not over, but the tender is actually coming. So we are here today to explain you a little bit about the work that we did, the use cases, and maybe also what the opportunities can be for you. So I will introduce again, actually, our speakers. So we have Konstantin Filonenko, that is a computational specialist and theoretical physicist from DTU, and DTU is our technical lead in the project. And then we have Juan Jacobo Peralta Escalante, that is the responsible for digitalization projects in CEMOSA, right? So, and first of all, I would actually start from you, Jacobo, to kind of complement what I have said right now. So to try to explain to the audience what is the impact or how can Begonia support the EU energy system to be, or even like the integration of more flexibility.
Well, you have explained very well in the introduction. And the most important point is the funding for our audience, because the Commission is going to publish a public tender in 1 month. But how the European Commission has contacted us in order to support them is a question of the work that we have done during the last year, in which we have collected ideas for the energy sector. And this idea has been, at the end, we collect 10 use cases that are related with cross-border, cross-sector, and especially what the concept that the European Commission wants to put on the table, that this is the ODP, the Operational Digital Platforms, that this is the solution based on data, this is based on concept of interoperability and communication protocol, etc. This infrastructure, data infrastructure and communication that is needed to implement these use cases. And the idea of Begonia, in order to support the energy system, is to investigate these 10 use cases. 3 of this set of use cases has been evaluated with cost-benefit analysis. So the 3 selected use cases we have considered the most promising for the energy sector in the coming years, especially because the program is this Connecting Euros facilities. So the idea of this program is to put funding for this project that improve the cross-border connections between different countries or regions in Europe, but also is cross-sector. So it's not only energy for the electricity sector, but also for the energy in the industry or other sectors that are compatible. So the idea of Begonia is to show which use cases are more promising, and we as advisors of the European Commission tell how they can put this funding in the best conditions for this implementation.
Thank you very much, Jacobo. And now I will turn to you, Konstantin, because we have mentioned this concept of the ODP that is not particularly easy to understand, so I would like you to try to give like a little bit of an explanation of what we mean by that.
In a narrow sense, that's a platform that analyzes sensors to actuate the devices that business runs in real time. For instance, TSO's energy management system analyzes grid data to switch breakers, let's say, right? But Begonia goes a bit beyond that because Begonia proposes use cases where the ODPs operate heterogeneous systems across businesses and across sectors. And automation of cross-sector flows enables a human-centric platform where the human user becomes an active part.
So of course. Yeah. And I think that since the center of the project are these use cases that we have identified, I think that it can be the time to actually take a look at them and to make everyone familiar with them. So I will actually start with you again. We have just some very simple schemes for you to enjoy while our colleagues can explain them. So I would like you to give like a really quick explanation of the first use case that we have that we call the electricity consumer-centric ODP.
Mm-hmm. So users can earn through controlling their devices by mobile apps, and there's the ODP under the hood manages all the data collection from TSO grid and individual network, like distribution network loads from consumers. So the idea is that they control their own controllable loads while following the agreed proposal for an actuation set point or signal. And that is achieved by distributing the ODP. So the parts of the ODP are deployed in different subgrids. And the prices are calculated for local energy markets there.
Because the point is that this is supposed to work cross-border as well, right? In principle. Yeah, okay. And thank you very much, Konstantin. So we're going to keep it brief because, of course, the day is very dense. But after, if you have more questions, of course, we're going to be more than happy to answer them to you. And actually, I will turn to you now, Jacobo, to explain a little bit, actually, the second use case that is a little bit more cross-sector.
Yeah, for us, this is one of the use cases more challenging because it has been a combination of different use cases. But at the end, we realized that this is very, very important that the use case is put on the table for the European Commission. This use case is based on the electric mobility. Basically, you can see here in the picture an electric truck, because imagine in the future that most of our cars, electric vehicles, will be operating not only in your region or your country, but also crossing to other countries. So imagine this amount of energy that is moving every day, every moment. So it's not the question to manage the different energy system in different countries at the same time. Considering this amount of energy that is moving every time, every moment, is difficult to manage because, for example, this considers logistics company that can to plan the travels of the different electric cars, even the common people that use the electric car between different countries. So this load is moving. This load has to be planned at the point that they must charge. So imagine also that in the future, as we have been discussing this morning, all of our energy will be from renewable systems. So this will be even more complicated. So this amount of data from electric vehicles for where they are charging, even considering the conditions of different countries, this is the question in which we propose the operational digital platform as one of the solutions, because it's this amount of data, this amount of potential scenarios in which we are considering different loads and moving is something very complex that should be managed in a different way. So this is the way that can be supported with this digitalization of all these concepts, and all the stakeholders can benefit, for example, for artificial intelligence, weather forecasting, and other sub-use cases of the use cases that support the global operation of this future in the coming years.
And I think here is very interesting, the application of artificial intelligence, that of course we have it throughout all of our use cases, but here is particularly important for the reason that you just mentioned before, Jacobo. So thank you very much for now, for this brief explanation of the use case, that I totally agree this is extremely interesting, extremely complex, but it's quite strategic, I would say. And last but not least, indeed, we have our third use case that actually we can consider it a little bit your baby, Konstantin. So you're probably the best person in the whole consortium that can walk us through this one that is about data centers.
So there are incentives to grow a number of data centers in Europe. And also there are incentives to make them more sustainable. There are some regulations, new regulations about it. And actually in Denmark, those regulations are taken quite seriously. So what happens is generative AI loads grow, and they are moved around Europe. But flexibility is not considered. So the consumption is still flat for data centers. On the other hand, in particular Danish small data centers, or medium-sized data centers, they consider different flexibility potentials. For instance, they integrate hydrogen electricity producers in the data centers, or they provide ancillary services. A lot of data centers reject heat to district heating because of those incentives. And how to bridge the gap between the demand and supply in this respect. And for that, this use case considers data centers as multi-energy nodes. And the ODP has different services that operate or optimize different sectors, but they also communicate and co-optimize those. One special aspect of this ODP is that it follows the way proposed by Google, where the computational load transfer is moved around the data center and also between the data centers. And that seems to be technically possible. That's one of the things that we want to demonstrate, that it's technically possible with medium size and a bit larger size European data centers, like Data4 and some other. Yeah, so I think.
No, and thank you very much. And I think that this is something that relates very much also with the topics that we have been treating today. So the computational load transfer, so to transfer some loads between different data centers, even cross-border, like in different countries, to take advantage of lower prices, more renewable consumption, or even to provide services to the grid operator. And of course, we know how data centers are going to be increasingly important in our system. So
maybe one thing. Now, some of the companies make aggregation of the data center loads themselves in Denmark. I know one like that. Yeah. But a lot of companies acknowledge the need for specialized aggregator for data centers, and that could be extended to Europe, right? If there are some regulations supporting that.
Thank you very much, Konstantin. And now, one last question for you, Jacobo. So, what happens now, essentially? So, and what can the EU propose, let's say, to ensure the scalability of these very complicated but extremely strategic and interesting concepts that we have been working on and that we have presented today?
Okay, the concept of scalability, replicability, there are terms very popular in the European Commission. Keep in mind that this project comes from the set of the project from the Connecting Europe facilities that come from a European strategy that is the digital decade, in which the European Commission wants to digitalize all the strategic sectors for the sake of the citizen, of course. So one of the sectors is the energy, in which as energy, health, transport, these are the strategic sectors. And the idea is to create data spaces in which different stakeholders can use the data for develop different services, new services, and to integrate the new strategies, for example, the penetration with the renewable energy, electric vehicle, digitalization, different sectors. So data spaces is the way in which we are building these different platforms. For this reason, the operational digital platform, this new concept that the European Commission wants to exploit in the new Connecting Europe Facility program, is to create a common data space for energy in Europe. This is something that our sister project is generating. It's a specific data space in which the data, ontology, the transmission protocols, the communication protocols will be very similar at the level of Europe in order to implement the regulations, in order to implement the services in a common way. Because the first point that we found, the first issue, is that there is not a common standardization for all the services that we have identified in our use case collection. And even when we analyze the use cases, has not been very easy because we identify different interoperability frameworks that has been very difficult to manage, and even the governance model has been very difficult to put in a common use case. You can see here the effort of 1.5 years of the consortium, but the analysis of all this has been very complicated. So from data spaces and the ODP is the way that the European Commission wants to create a scalable platform in which the different stakeholders can include their services and then to exploit all the future of the energy system according to the strategy of the European Commission.
So thank you very much to the both of you. I will do like a really quick wrap-up of a minute. So essentially what we have heard today is that these concepts are extremely complicated. So no one is asking to one company to do the implementation. That has to be very clear. The idea is that there are many companies that work together in order to do that. That is also the concept of the ODP, right? So you have to come together in a platform that is a digital space through which you can offer multiple services in multiple countries, but through just one single data space, right? So what we can say is that, first of all, reach out to us, ask us as many questions as you want. The other important dates are that quite likely this tender will be published the 24th of June this year, and we are going to host a public workshop about the use cases, probably also about the tender on the 27th of June, so you're all most welcome to join us. And in any case, again, maybe we can take one question for a minute, or shall we jump it? No problem. But in any case, we will be here around. So if you have any questions, of course, we are going to be here to reply to them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.